Welcome to City and State TV. I'm Managing Editor Michael Johnson. I'm joined today by Eric Pryor, the Executive Director for the Center for Arts Education. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
So, before we get into Mayor de Blasio's budget and the amount of money he put into arts education, I just wanted to have you tell us a little bit about the Center for Arts Education. What do you guys do?
Well, we've been around for about 16 years. Of course, we're a nonprofit. And essentially our mission is to stimulate and sustain the arts as part of the education for New York City public school children. And we do that through advocacy work, public awareness about the value of arts education, and we do work around professional development with school leaders, principals, and teachers as well. And we develop programs that we put in the schools during school day and some after-school programming as well.
Okay. So over that 16 years since the center started, I mean, I think there's been a growing national trend where arts education has been cut back. I mean, not necessarily specifically everywhere, but just in general, it seems like it's been cut back. Do you feel like it's reversing at all at this point, or do you feel like that's still the trend?
Well, I think in some ways people are looking for answers. Our education system hasn't necessarily gotten better. We're not getting better results. And a lot of the emphasis has become around language arts testing and test scores as well as math scores, and people are realizing more and more, I believe, that you really got to engage children. They have to want to go to school each day, and some are recognizing the value of art. So we're seeing some shifts around the country. Not as much as we'd like, but we're seeing some shifts, definitely.
In New York City, do you feel like that they've been a little bit ahead of the trend, or do you think with the election of Bill de Blasio that they are now kind of moving in that direction?
I think we're definitely moving in that direction, but oddly enough, Mayor Bloomberg really understood the importance of the arts. I think it was just a perfect storm of his management style with respect to, we had Project Arts, which had a per dollar allotment. Mayor Bloomberg felt that the principals should be able to have the autonomy to make the decisions with their resources. That, coupled with No Child Left Behind, sort of created this testing culture, and a lot of principals made what I feel like was the wrong choice and doubled down on, extra test prep in those areas, and the arts suffered. They didn't necessarily see the connection.
So now getting to the budget that Mayor Bill de Blasio has put forth this year, there's $23 million for arts education. Do you think that's enough? I know that's more than in the past years.
It's definitely a step in the right direction, and it really depends on how it's utilized, how it's allocated. It could be enough if I think one of the things that has to be done and is critically important is if they leverage that money with private resources. One of the things that made the Project Arts money work is that they leveraged and they were able to get private investors, businesses, and private philanthropists to come forward who cared about education and the arts to help, essentially leverage those funds to expand on them. So it definitely could be enough, but I think it depends on how they use it. If it's used, I mean, there are a number of schools in New York City that don't have certified arts teachers. I think if they use that money as a part of a good portion of that money, and it's sort of phased in way similar to what they're doing in Chicago, they have an incentive program where they put a certain percentage towards the salary of new teachers, and then the school will match part of it with their budget. The money will go farther. Also, the school has an investment in it as well. And definitely that would be a great foundation to begin to address the problem. Because, realistically, to try to just eradicate it in one sweep of the brush, could be a bit difficult. I know the mayor has challenges, with the city budget beyond arts education. So realistically, I think it is a good step in the right direction, can make a difference.
So where does this money go, and how does it, get distributed out, or how would you like to see it get distributed out? Because I feel like there's probably a sense amongst a lot of people that, arts education should be provided for all ages, but maybe it's more beneficial if it's provided for younger ages, and there's this push for pre-K and stuff like that. Have you found that it's more beneficial, or that you see that it improves overall attendance and test scores and those types of things if it's targeted at a specific age group?
Well, I haven't, really there's appropriate arts instruction for every age group, essentially. And I mean, I definitely think it's something where, I'd hate to see it, and of course you got to have it in pre-K, because if it became a test culture pushing for pre-numeracy and that sort of thing at pre-K, God help us, it'd be very difficult. So that's critical that it's there. But, elementary, it's also critical, but also middle and high school as well. I mean, I really think, we really have to change the attitude towards education and not look at it as not look at it as an expense, but look at it as an investment, essentially, with a return. And I think if we look at it in that way, I mean, our greatest minds and greatest thinkers were visionaries. When you look at a Thomas Edison or those who are creating industries in our country, they're individuals with great skills that, they can do all the core things that they want, but they also had an ability to take those skills and think creatively, think out the box. And that's what's made America great, and I think that's what will continue to make us a great country ahead of the curve. So I think we'd be making a grave mistake, shortchanging ourselves on teaching our children to think creatively.
And you mentioned obviously the private funds helping the situation. I know the mayor's made his wife the head of the Mayor's Fund for Advancement of New York City, I believe is what it's called.
The Fund for Public Schools?
No, there's the Mayor's Fund to Advance New York City, and Shirley McRae's been made the head of that. That has done a lot of stuff. When under Mayor Bloomberg, it was used to do a lot to promote, not as much education, but helping communities in need and doing other types of things like that. And with this push for pre-K and with this push for maybe arts education, do you think that's something that could be utilized?
It's definitely possible, and I mean, she would be, I think a wonderful person in that area. Being a poet and someone who's definitely seems to have a real understanding of creativity and how it plays in childhood development. I think it would definitely could be a great platform, to raise money. But then also they have the Fund for Public Schools. It's another area where they raise private funds to help with educational needs. So there are a couple opportunities or vehicles that they could use. I'm hesitant to say which one they should. The main thing is they're focused on it. And I think to a large extent that focus comes from the fact that with the Stringer report that recently came out, it showed that the disparity in arts education was happening in low-income communities. So it really showed that there was this, in arts education, a tale of two cities, which was right in the, in the mayor's platform.
And getting to that Stringer report, he said that in that report that should be about an investment of $26 million every year in order to have a fully accredited arts teacher in each school. Right. Do you think that number is about correct?
I trust the number, but it could vary, and the reason I say that is because when the data that was used comes from, it actually comes from DOE, but I think we have to look deeper and make certain that there are larger schools that may have a couple certified arts teachers, but are there enough to service the entire building? There could be some nuance situations like that. So, that could have fluctuated partly, but I think for the most part, it's close to making it a reality, to closing that gap.
And the report, as you mentioned, talks about the discrepancy where some of the higher needs schools are the ones where there's less arts education, and I think that kind of plays into what you were saying before, in the sense that when under the Bloomberg administration, a lot of these principals probably in these communities, because of fear of possibly having their school shut down and having to have good test scores, might have invested in other areas. I mean, do you think that the money that the Mayor de Blasio is using now in these programs should be targeting these poorer school districts?
Definitely. I hope so. I mean, kids don't pick your parents, and essentially one of the things, not just in New York City, but across America and in many municipalities, parents have been raising money privately or donating money themselves to subsidize things that have been removed from the curriculum or cut back on. And I mean, we really, which means that if there's a kid that's growing up in the South Bronx or Central Brooklyn where the parents may not necessarily have those discretionary resources, they don't have those dollars to bring to the table to supplement things that are not happening in their child's school. And then ultimately it's about career and college readiness. And career and college readiness is not going to happen just because you learn to be a good test taker.
And taking that a step further, we have the budget, which is due on July 1st. In these last couple weeks heading into that, do you think that where this money is directed is something that is going to be addressed by the council, or have you heard anything?
I haven't heard one way or the other. I hope it is, but I have faith. I mean, I really feel like we have a chancellor who is an educator and really, she gets it. My organization was very instrumental in the Project Arts and part of the push for that happened through Walter Annenberg, the Annenberg family. Had invested, and we actually re-granted a lot of those dollars, and so during that period, it's a good time. I feel like she was a principal and received those funds, so she gets it. She understands the value of arts education. I think the mayor, they realize, because I mean, if you go to any of the top private schools in New York City, they're going to have stellar art programs, and it's not there because it's fluff. It's there because it's a central part of helping those students be productive citizens in America who have something to contribute.